Hi, everyone. Welcome to Our Disabled Future, a series where disabled voices lead the way. I'm your host, Nico, and it is a good day for disability inclusion. Each day during Disability Pride Month and beyond, I'm amplifying real disabled voices, where we are, where we want to go, and how the heck we're going to get there. Together, I think. But anyway, today I'm thrilled to be joined by Leah. Let's dive in. Hi, Leah. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Um,
Awesome.
yeah.
Tell us about yourself and about your disabled life.
Okay. I am a student at Arizona State University. I'm creative. I like to write. I'm a writer. I like to write poetry. I like to sew and crochet. And also, I'm a big advocate of inclusion. I was a big advocate of equity within disabled spaces, specifically as someone who has created a program for people. Oh no, I want to start over. I'm being of disabled spaces, specifically in programs such as libraries, because I am a big lover of libraries. My disabled life began with also finding ability within the perspective of an inability, because I was diagnosed at age 3 with autism and age 7 with ADHD, and then age 22 with bipolar. So like having a disability when you're a child, before you know what it means, besides how people treat you, is a very huge deal, because like you're told you have this constant feeling you're not good enough, even if you can do things like I was an avid reader since I was very little. When I was in fourth grade, I read like a high schooler. Like like at the same time, that didn't always translate to me. That didn't always translate to the teachers treating me well, or like caring, because I was good at specific things, and things like math. I was okay at, but I wasn't stellar at. But that was more the projection, because they didn't know anything about autism when I was little. It was the 2000s. So they were just kind of like, there's kind of like, at first didn't want to diagnose me because I was a girl. But then they saw me and they're like, no, no, she has autism. But then, but then she has autism. But then they're like, then they didn't have very much data, so they looked around into the projections on what it meant to be, what were the outcomes supposed to be for someone with autism, and specifically for girls. And the data usually said that they were very severely disabled. I have, and I don't know about like the word severely, but like there, it was like basically the feeling I got was no one expects much from you. um and at the same time, you're expected to be, there's an unwritten expectation. You're supposed to be not neurodivergent. You're supposed to, you're supposed to project a certain sense of womanhood, and there's conflicting ideas from the 2000s about what it means to be a woman, in terms of, because I was raised in a religious background where modesty is womanhood, but then also there's the idea that womanhood in like 2000s pop culture, that womanhood was being sexy, womanhood was being cute, womanhood was being this, being that, being this, and then it was all contradicting each other. And I was just like, I just wanted to fit in, but there are so many little landmines you have to avoid stepping on when it comes to gender and autism. And I never really felt like I fit in really anywhere. And I just, even though I dress like girly and stuff like that, I still feel uncomfortable when someone tries to place me into a specific gender role. I feel uncomfortable about the idea of being perceived a certain way. Um, I think that's very common for a lot of people, specifically because I'm queer. Like I'm bisexual. Like that's pretty common, I think, to just like be like, I don't want to be in a specific box gender role wise, and what I think my label means is going to change as I change. Um Yeah. And my disabled life is I live with my parents. I'm with my parents' house. I'm a student at 26. Um, I I before the pandemic was my college years in the beginning. So like 2017 was when I first graduated high school. I ended up having ended up going straight to college, going to college in Allentown, PA. Allentown, PA was not the best place to be in 2017. There was an opioid epidemic. It was really depressing, and like it snowed all the time. My pens literally exploded in my bag because it was that cold. I got strep throat and no one helped me, and I it helped me, and it just really sucked, and I left when I was really depressed, and then I ended up going to and then I went to Montgomery College, got my degree, graduated with honors, was still a mess, not medicated. um, and I had like, and I was like in between that and like, and I was really, really depressed. I was like my mom had to like force me out of bed. God bless her. She had to force me out of bed every morning to get me to school because she knew I would feel worse if I didn't get my degree. um, and um, yeah, I was basically a vegetable when I was home. Like I slept constantly. And then I ended up going to University of Maryland. I got into the history department, and I started getting more involved in disability activism and accepting myself. I didn't. It wasn't very fruitful because I had lots of big ideas, but no one was really willing to talk about it yet because it was like it was 2020, and it wasn't really a thing at University of Maryland. Now it is, but like I was one of the beginners of it was beginning conversation, and people weren't ready for all the things I had to say. Like for example, my idea of using STEAM to have a disability angle to talk about fashion design for people with disabilities by disabled fashion designers who are combining engineering with costume design for the theater department. Um, I had this idea because there's a thing called maker spaces that they were thinking of building that would be combining different fields of study. So I was like, this is perfect. A makerspace could fund disabled innovation. Uh, so, but you had to be a grad student and you had to be this and that and this and that in order for anyone to listen to you. So it was really annoying. And I was just kind of like, I have all these good ideas and no one listens to me. And I just got so tired and I just got so tired. I was doing so many things and like, um, I was doing so many things and like, I was manic and I ended up passing out on the school lawn because I wasn't sleeping. And then after that, I went to the hospital, yeah. So 2 years later, I'm recovered. I'm on meds. My meds have stayed relatively stable. Like I was on lithium, and then I got off lithium. Lithium sucked. Lithium was lithium enlarged my spleen. I gained 40 pounds. Also, also, it made me sleepy all the time. I couldn't get out. It was exhausting just to get up out of bed. It just really sucked. Like I was like, it made my hair thin. It made like, and like it just like completely like wrecked my body. So I got off it and I tried it, and I went to a psychotic Abilify because I was having psychosis. And honestly, getting better was what made me less religious. I realized that my disabled life has been finding who I am as a person. And coming to terms with the fact that it may not happen at the pace I want it to be, but I still have things to offer, and the world can listen, and I can listen to others too.
You, Leah, that was very comprehensive. You've given a wonderful account of how your disabled life has helped you develop as a person toward and away from certain beliefs and behaviors.
Yeah.
So, what does a disability friendly future look like for you?
I think where everyone has a chance to find out to figure themselves out without having to feel boxed in by what everyone else thinks about them or what they're supposed to be. I think where people are able to branch out and be given resources no matter what their title is, because of the inherent belief that everyone is worth it. I think I started a program where I started a partnership between. There's my idea because I noticed there a lot when I was visiting a group home because I was potentially going to be there because I was really disorganized and like out blah blah blah. So, I so I found that most people, I asked them, do you guys have library cards? They're like, no, but they go to the library all the time. No one thought to ask to get them a library card. So then I was like thinking about it. I was like, what would it take to get them library to get everybody the library card? And not only, and then I started also thinking about what library services would be available to people with disabilities. And the thing was, I realized was that there's this idea that there's nothing to the idea, especially for people in group homes, people in institutional settings, people who are not going to go to college ever. Maybe they will go to college, but people who are like disabled people who have developmental disabilities in a way that makes it so that they don't have as many opportunities to get that title. Um, and I think those people need access to education too. And it's very rare that they actually get that access that they get their access. And one of those things is publicly owned community settings where they can integrate themselves into the community. And a library is a great way to do that because a library is a public space where you don't have to pay to get there except for maybe transportation. But if you take public transportation or if you already have built-in transportation and if the library is close to like the place, then it's just a matter of learning how to get to the library, which is a thing that happened with a bunch of people because they didn't realize the library was even there. Some of the support people. Um,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So it was honestly like, so my program was to get people laptops through a community program that you need library cards for. I got 131 people laptops. My disabled future is that everyone has an access in innovation and innovation is not a march of progress that goes on and steamrolls over people, but that innovation leads to a better world for everybody.
That's true. It absolutely does. Leah, thank you so much. So you talk about increasing inclusion, increasing access, and building a future where every disabled person gets the tools they need to succeed and innovate.
Yeah.
What is your strategy? How can we make that future a reality?
I think through existing community programs
Okay.
and educating people about what's available currently and being strategic about how we can about how we can utilize what exists.
Remarkable. Leah, I also want to circle back and talk about something that you talked about, which was libraries and other public spaces
Mm-hmm.
as a way to foster disability and non-disabled inclusion. That's
Yeah.
remarkable. And that's why third spaces, large public free spaces like the library, are really
Mm-hmm.
important in American life. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in this day and age, awfully rare.
Yes.
All right, then. As our time wraps up, I want to give you a chance that you and I, as disabled people, so rarely get, Leah, and that is a chance to brag about yourself, talk about
Mm-hmm.
something cool you recently did, or maybe something you've got in the works. I don't know. If you
Okay.
want to like grow your following online, where can people find you? But this is just like a free space for you to be your own cheerleader.
Okay, so I am trying to publish some poems. So I have some poems. So I recently wrote two poems that I'm waiting to hear back from Lit Mag, called from a Lit Mag called "Poems of a Petty Autistic," because which has multiple layers to it because petty can mean someone, so it can mean someone who's like not that important, and then petty could also mean someone who's like very adamant about the fact that they have to be listened to even if they're not important. And the theme of my writing is often falling short, mediocrity, just it's okay to be dealing with perfectionism and being not the shining star, but still finding a place for yourself and finding your voice. Because a lot of times there's this idea of the super cripple, the super person who does everything perfectly, and that means that, like, from my experience when I was working with two organizations, the library and the group home, it meant I had to do everything because no one else was. Everyone's thinking, Leah could do it, Leah could do it, Leah could do it. But I still have my own organizational issues too. I mean, I did as much as I could, but there are things like basic things like they forgot to tell some of the people who were coming to the class I was teaching how to use the computers, like why they were going there and what we were going to be learning. Like I asked them to do that, did not happen. So it was it's kind of like on one hand, there's a lot you could do. On the other hand, you shouldn't have to do everything. And on the other hand, like even like if you have good ideas or whatever, you're that there's a whole lot of things that say you're not that special, and it. But just because you're not that special, that's a matter of inclusion, including people who are not that special, because people who usually are not thought of as being the center of activism, not me, like whatever, but like the center of activism, like the people I taught how to use computers at this group home, like who had multiple disabilities. Like one person I helped was in her 70s. She had cerebral palsy and couldn't type, and she read, and she was a third grade reading level. So I had to figure out how to help her use her computer, and I found voice technology was helpful. Um, but also it had to be simple. So she just wanted to call her brother. So the annoying part was, so I had to set up an email, and then I set up the relationship brother, on Google, and then she could go Google Hangout, talk to him, and she could and she and I found like a tool that you in the browser that you can connect to that you can that from the browser that you can connect to voice activate things. So I had her say call. So I made it so she can say call my brother, and it sent a link to the brother. So it's like some of the things people don't think about is like when you're like thinking about respecting ability, it's important to respectability. It's also important to accommodate, and that's a tough balance because it depends who you're talking about, and disability is not the same for every person. And people who usually are the loudest voices in the community are those who would have different needs than someone who is usually the subject of the administration, like someone who's a subject of administration, like the woman who I helped with the third grade reading level.
Leah, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and giving us your perspective and your experiences. It's vital and needed. All right, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. This is Our Disabled Future, and it's being built by all of us together. I'm Nico. Thanks for watching, and remember, our future is accessible, inclusive, and unstoppable. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Bye.